Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Dark Roast with Kai Dorsey, and this is part 2 of my little verbal autobiography. Now, like I said previously, the me at that moment in time when I began to go to school there, and it was all my choice. It had nothing to do with anybody else. I had failed myself in my previous plans to stick to my guns and be who I wanted to be. Now, I spoke of the dissolving relationship between me and my father. Another big factor of that was a period in ninth grade. To go back, sorry, I had been institutionalized. I had become what they say a 5150, a danger to yourself and to others. I had a suicidal issue. I've always been depressed. I've always written poetry and stuff like that. But it was a moment to where me and my father's relationship had caused me to snap. And I remember calling my asshole girlfriend at the time, my mom, and my sister. When I got off the phone with my sister, I was ready to complete the task that I was going to complete. As I'm going to, police knock at the door, take me in. I, of course, go to a 72-hour hold. I think it may have turned into a week. But I saw a lot of people, a lot of kids like myself, from different age variations, a lot of girls who were lesbian or rape victims, and something that I had identified with as well, but I always kept deep down in the secrets of who Jeffrey was. A horrible idea. If you ever going through anything on that magnitude, you should always try to figure out a way to let go and relinquish yourself from those chains. Now, this was another part that helped the dissolving of the relationship because my mind had opened. Now, going back forward, those moments, that moment and a bunch of other ones had made me see that I had been going on the wrong path. But the path was still riddled with roadblocks. As I began to get deeper into drug use and drinking and having a quote-unquote best friend who was we were enabling each other with our drug use. It had forced me to single myself out from people because I could see their eyes staring, I can hear their voices, and people would always use me as the comedic relief in life because I was a funny fucker. I'd make jokes, I'd fuck around with people, do anything I wanted, who cared? I'd run across the campus, I'd jump into a tree, they would throw me up. If you guys know anything what I'm talking about, it's like four people lock arms and you run, you jump, and they toss you in the air. I would go run, grab on the tree branches and then climb down, whatever, so people were always seeing me as the funny person who never took anything serious. Because at this moment, I was so numb and doled out that I just didn't give a fuck anymore. I didn't give a fuck about, really having my freedom or the chance to be who I wanted to be. I gave more fuck about how I was going to numb myself. Keep myself from realizing that I'd been lying to myself. I failed myself. I knew that I could have stopped at any moment and began anew. But I didn't. And in this, it probably caused me to not have a lot of relationships in the Antelope Valley. I didn't date too many girls there. One, because the perception of me was flawed, and it was due to me, but I did date in other cities. But it meant nothing, because in the same sense of being broken at home and being broken in another city, people still start to realize what's going on with you. Now, when I met certain people and a certain altercation that occurred between me and someone who I actually view as an associate or a friend now, people began to see. It was my first fight, and because of the results, I was seen as someone who actually had worth. I was someone who actually should be bet on. At this moment, I started to get friends. Or so I thought. I got brothers, and then I got friends, and I got associates, and everybody knew me. And then it also put a target on my back. Now, living in a world where you never feel accepted and you always feel a little distant from everybody, when you start to get all these people in and things start to rush in, and you become a little more popular than you ever wanted to be or needed to be, because I've never wanted to be popular. I've never liked people's eyes on me. I always wanted to be alone in solitude, or at least with a few friends. Now, when those moments happen and you're overwhelmed and you can't think, you start to lose yourself a little bit deeper. Partying every weekend, getting a little more high. But then I had friends who, like Austin Bilson, Trevor McFarland, Timmy Harrison, who, even if one of which, Austin Bilson, didn't drink as much as Timmy, or Trevor did, sometimes, these people encourage me that even if I'm sitting there having fun and having a drink, it doesn't mean that I have to be high. Timmy having his own reasons for not even indulging in that lifestyle. And then my two other friends, brothers, knowing that that wasn't a path that they ever would want to be on. That changed me. That threw me into a moment of self-reflection. I was still crazy as shit. I still had fun from time to time, but it was a little less. The drug use was way less. I didn't feel as burdened as I did anymore as well. I began to find people who were in tune to me, and to even now to this day that I would die, live, or kill for. And with these turn of events occurring, starting to change, mold the mind, I found a fail-safe. Because, as you can think, with those 2 years prior of me being a really shaky person, my academia wasn't as good. My academics wasn't up to par. So 11th grade and 12th grade, I would go on independent study, do make up 2 years of work, and come back to school every once in a while. But because I was so separated from school and that life, I kind of didn't really like it anymore. So I would just go on independent study just to do so. Now, I knew I was going to be a Marine. We were driving back to Tim's house. We were in the back of Trevor's Bronco. And I remember looking at the recruiting office, and I was drunk, and I was going, I'm going to enlist. A year later, 12th grade, I enlisted. I had clarity of mind. At this point in time, Austin Bilson and I hung out like almost every day. I always walked to his house because we lived right next door, down the street from each other. I'd walk to his house, get a ride, met his family. His family was amazing. And in meeting these people, his brother Garrett, who's the reason why I'm even doing this right now. But in meeting these people, his family, I got to see what a real family was like, because I lived in a foster home, my mother being my biological, but then also my brothers and sisters who were not biological being brought in. I saw diversity all my life, and I thought that was what a family was. It didn't matter if you were blood or not, as long as you were accepted. And then when I got to see an actual family who was blood and they had that cohesion, it set something off in me as well, that I knew I had to go upon that path. Now, in doing so and seeing these great things, these great examples of who I wanted to be, and Brian and Kim, and how much I admired those two people. And then seeing Austin and how adamant he was in being who he was, and how he didn't really quiver at the fact that someone didn't agree with him. And he this big corn-fed blonde hair, blue-eyed dude, and he's best friends with this dark-ass crazy kid, you know? So for me, it became a moment to change. I joined the Marine Corps. I wanted to be better for the people who actually were there for me or had done for me. Because during these moments of time in high school that I was friends with these people or brothers with these people, or still am, I suppose say, they did a lot for me. Whether it was letting me use their phone to text girls or anything, or letting me use their phone all the time, feeding me, sheltering me. When me and my mom would get into fights, helping me out, bringing me in. I had gained something that in Pasadena I had, that freedom again. And I knew that to ensure that I kept it in the long run, I had to give it up and join the service. And so that's what I did. And in joining the service, I found a few things. You know, one, that not everything is going to be the way you planned it to be. Two, that I was more than I could ever expect. I was able to do more than I could ever see myself doing. I could be a leader, and a damn good one. Well, all along I thought that I wasn't meant to do any type of leading. I wasn't even meant to be in that position. I thought I was someone who would just sit in the background and be maybe a foot soldier, or maybe even a lieutenant or captain who would advise. But I never saw myself as the front man. Now, when I joined the military and I lived my first year, and I felt all the praise and all the acceptance that I had finally gotten. It was different from in high school, to where it was, these people were actually proud to know me. These people were actually like excited to see me, because I had went and did a complete 180 from who I was, or what was even destined for me. Or even the success that was brought upon with me completing this task. And the Marine Corps was the first time in my life I decided to take a hold of my life. As well as the first time in life that I had started something and actually, with boot camp, finished what I started. And I didn't quit, even though I wanted to. A new me had surfaced. A new me had rose like a phoenix from the flames and began anew. But just like all cycles, there's bumps in the roads. Moments that could have been, the demise of what I was becoming. Things that turned me away from what I truly believed. And then moments that helped me find who and what I would become. Setting me on the perfect alignment with my future and present self. Now we're going to stop right here. We're going to go on to the final part. I want to thank you guys so much for listening, and keep tuning in. And I'll be right back with you with the Dark Roast. This is Kai Dorsey.